Alright, so these are the multiplying onions we'll be planting. I've already split these up here. Hopefully that gives you a little better idea of what we're working with. What's up, Lazy Dog fam? Hope all y'all are having a wonderful day. It is Monday, May 15th here in South Georgia, and today we're going to be working in the raised bed plot here behind me. Going to give you an update on a few things, and we're going to try to do a little bed turnover, move some perennial onions from our neglected raised beds way on the back half of the property up into here, and then talk about some plans for these beds going forward. So before we clean out a spot in one of these beds and try to move those bunching onions, I wanted to give you a little update on our raised bed taters. It's been about 90 days since we planted these. We planted these on February 14th. Here it is, May 15th. So these things should be starting to die back at this point. That's kind of the natural progression of tater growth. When you start hitting 90 or 100 days, the plants start yellowing, dying back, and that's how you know when to harvest them. But these plants are still wide open, looking really good. Now right here, the plants have kind of fallen over the side because they got so tall, but those there look pretty good. Just got a little bit of exposed soil here. But as long as we've got plenty of soil on top of those taters, they should be good. Shouldn't get exposed to the sunlight and turn green. So that bed's looking really good. This bed over here is looking really good too. Falling over the sides a little bit, but no signs of really dying back yet. Now, since it's been about 90 days, we could probably go ahead and pull these plants, dig these taters, and get a pretty good harvest from these two beds. But my plan is, unless we just start getting a ton of rain, my plan is to let these plants die back completely, because I'm really interested to see what our return on investment or our pounds multiple with our harvest is going to be out of these raised beds here. So we planted 1 pound of 4 different varieties amongst these two beds here, and I want to see just how many potatoes or pounds of potatoes we get in return. So I don't want to skew the results of that. That's why we're going to leave them alone and let them keep growing. Now, moving along from those beautiful tater beds, we've got this bed right here where we're going to be working today. Still got this beautiful darker kale here. It's still producing really well for us. This plant right here kind of did something funky, almost like it broke, but then kind of healed itself and started growing back upright. We've still been enjoying a lot of this stuff, even though it's gotten pretty hot and humid around here. This stuff hasn't shown any signs of bolting, still giving us some good groceries. Now, beside that kale, we've got these English peas or snow peas here that have officially bitten the dust. It might look like I haven't been giving these any water, but they've been getting plenty of water. It's just what happens to these kind of peas this time of year down here. So when I can, I like to give examples of this right here for our neighbors in the northern states that may not quite understand why we can't grow English peas or snow peas this time of year. Now, everybody claims that it's humid where they live, but down here it is really humid. It is muggy out here today. Now, these peas look great for a couple months, and we got some nice harvest off of them, but once the heat and humidity picked up, as you can see, they're toast. And we went from healthy plants to pitiful looking plants in about a week or two there. Now, these have looked like this for several weeks, but I wanted to leave them here so I could show them to you when I got an opportunity to do a video out here. So the kale is good to go. Even though kale's kind of considered a cool season plant, with this curly kale here, we can usually get it to grow into the summer a little bit. We might give it a little fertilizer here in a minute, but these peas have got to go. So we need to get these out of here, and we've got 2 lines of drip tape that we'll leave and hopefully move some of those bunching onions over here. Now, this may not end up working as well as I think it's going to work, but my plan here is to just cut these pea plants at the base of the soil there. So go all along the row here, cut all those plants, assuming we've got some nitrogen fixation in the soil. I don't want to disturb that. Once we cut all the plants, hopefully we can just pull out this whole trellis system here, and it'll be a nice, quick, easy removal. So we'll see if it goes as planned. All right, so we got all those plants clipped there, and hopefully this will all kind of come out in one piece. Jar that post there loose. It's way down in there. There we go. All right, that worked like a charm. So we'll do the same thing to this one and get it out of here as well. All right, that couldn't have went any smoother or been any easier. Later on, I'll cut all the string off those wooden stakes there. That way I can save those. But now, let's head on over there to our neglected raised beds and see if we can't find something to fill this space. So this is an area I've been calling the Garden of Neglect, because even though I walk by it all the time, ride by it all the time in my buggy, you can see the tire tracks there, I really don't tend to these beds a whole lot. I just kind of let them get some water when it rains, and some of them have gotten a little out of control. Some of them have some nice good groceries in them. So this bed here, for example, got leveled by the Arctic blast. But you can see it's came back very, very nicely. We've got some tarragon in there, we've got some oregano in there, we've got some sage in there that actually bloomed earlier this year. So a lot of good herbs in that bed. Last year we planted this Okinawan spinach plant that we had in the greenhouse. Planted it in this bed right here. It's looking a little rough right now, but I didn't think it was going to come back after the Arctic blast. It did. Got some weeds in there to pull, so we need to get that in a little better shape. Over here we've got some horseradish popping up. We thought we harvested it all, but everybody kept saying you can't ever get rid of it, and that does seem to be the case. So we're going to have some more horseradish in there. We've got some fennel there that we need to pull out. We've got some thyme in there. There's some garlic chives back in there somewhere that'll probably be coming back pretty soon. Nothing really in this bed but weeds. Had a few pepper plants in here last year, so I need to turn that over, get something else planted in that one. And then in this last bed, we've got these multiplying onions that Cajun Bee gave us last year, and we planted in here. And they probably would have did a lot better if we would have took better care of them, but they didn't do too bad considering we haven't really messed with them at all. The weeds got pretty bad in here at one point. Looks like we got a volunteer snapdragon plant right there, and the soil here is sank down quite a bit. I need to kind of top off this bed. These onions here are pretty tough. They grow wild in a lot of places, but I think I'm going to move them up there to the front of the property where they'll get a little better care. So these are what I call multiplying onions. These are different than bunching onions. So bunching onions are like spring onions. You plant them real thick, and when you harvest them, you pull up a bunch at the time. These are multiplying onions. So when we planted these, Cajun Bee basically gave us individual little onions like that we planted, and then they start multiplying once you plant them. So one onion turned into 3 onions in this case. Some of them multiplied even more than that. We pull up this bunch here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 there. Now if we would have took really good care of these, they all probably would have multiplied into 6 or more. But good thing is they stayed alive, and some of them did multiply for us. Now even though these were in the Garden of Neglect, we got some pretty good root systems on those plants there. So what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and pull up all these onions, go ahead and split them all up, and I think I may cut the tops on some of these, especially since some of them have started sprouting. So probably going to just trim them up a little bit so it'll be a little bit easier to plant them in their new spot. So that's what we'll be planting right there. Alright, so we got some nice little mess of them there. Definitely more than we started with when we planted them last year. Now the next few days I'll probably start working on getting this cleaned up a little bit, getting these beds topped off a little bit. Because I just got another load of these composted wood chips that we use to fill the raised beds on the front half of the property. Been using a little bit of this stuff around some new fig trees I've been planting. We got plenty here, and we use this to top off some of those beds. So if you've got any ideas, or there's something you want to see me grow in these 2 round raised beds that we have open here, let me know in the comments below. I was thinking about doing ginger in one of them, but haven't really decided yet. Whatever it is, it should probably be something that's a perennial, or definitely something that doesn't need a whole lot of maintenance, something we can just plant and kind of let it ride, because of course this is the Garden of Neglect. Now back over here in the garden that hasn't been neglected, Still got our drip tape in place. I think that row spacing is going to be fine for these multiplying onions, so no need to move any of that. We'll leave all that hooked up. I do have some Nature Safe 855 I want to put down. I think I'm going to plant these on double rows. I think I've got enough plants for that, so I'm going to put a little bit of that on each side of these tape lines here. And then I think I'm going to reach over here, give a little bit of these kale plants as well. Then I'm going to take my little 3-prong cultivator and kind of scratch that fertilizer into the soil a little bit. And then I think I'll take my hoe handle here and make me some little indentions, about 6 inches apart or so, on both sides of this tape. And we should be able to just slide our onion plants down into those holes. Alright, so these are the multiplying onions we'll be planting. I've already split these up here. Hopefully that gives you a little better idea of what we're working with. Now I don't know this for certain, but something tells me I should probably trim up these roots a little bit. So I think that's what I'm going to do here with my knife. Trim those off like that, and then we'll just take them, stick them down in those little holes we just made. And I think I got enough plants here for all the holes I just made, so we're going to keep just kind of rocking along here until we get them all planted. All right, so that worked out perfect there. Had just enough plants for those 2 double rows. And once those puppies get rooted in that raised bed there and start growing, they should multiply again. Now I did have a few here that broke off without any roots when I was splitting these things up. They would still grow if we put these in the ground, considering these things grow wild in a lot of places. But I think I'll save these, take these inside, chop them up, use them on some eggs or omelet. They'll be pretty good like that. So these onions are not sweet onions. These here have quite a bit of bite to them. It's pretty good, nice onion flavor. But the tops are also really good to eat as well. And that's what we'll use a lot of these that we just planted for, is just having some onion tops year round that we can grab. Now, in case you haven't figured out already, for these multiplying onions, we're not following our same 10 tips that we use for bulbing onions. This is a different ball game here. Now, we do want to feed these well. That way they'll grow out well, multiply, and we get some nice, healthy looking green tops. But we don't have to abide by the same set of rules with these. Now before we go, I wanted to tell you what's going to be planted in one of these other beds pretty soon and get some suggestions from you guys on those tall beds back there whenever those taters get done. So in this bed right here, we had some lettuce, pulled all that up. I showed you in a previous video how we buried a bunch of fish in the middle of this row. These collard plants are still kicking. They probably do need to be sprayed. They're getting tore up pretty good by bugs, but they're not showing any signs of bolting yet. But down the center of this bed, I think I'm going to plant a little row of Puerto Rico sweet potatoes, which is more of a bush variety, more ideal for containers or raised beds. So got some slips on the way that we'll be putting in there pretty soon. And then over here, when these taters are done, I'm thinking about planting some sweet corn in here just to try growing sweet corn in raised beds. Obviously, we've got more sweet corn than we need right over there, but I just thought it'd be neat to show you guys how we would do it if we could do it in some raised beds. Now my initial thoughts was to grow a variety called Gurney's Gotta Have It sweet corn in these 2 raised beds here. That's a variety that a lot of people have recommended over the years. A lot of people have asked us to grow and we've never tried it. So that was what I was leaning towards, but if you've got some other suggestions as far as a sweet corn variety you'd like to see me grow in these raised beds, put it in the comments below. I might change my mind. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. Be sure to check out our affiliate links in the description below and go check out our website, lazydogfarm.com. And we mentioned this briefly in the video, but if you want to see more or learn more about our irrigation setup for these raised beds, check out this video right here we did when we installed everything on this raised bed plot and how we made it nice and easy to flip a bed, remove some old plants, put some new ones in there in no time. So check that out and we'll see you next time right here at Lazy Dog Farm.